Welcome back to PropellerHeads TV. I'm your host, Matt Sloan, CEO of Skyfire Consulting. If you aren't familiar with us, we help public safety agencies start safe and legal drone programs. Let's talk about developing SOPs for your drone program. This is not a sexy topic. Everybody hates writing SOPs, but it's definitely something that you need to think about as you're developing your drone program. So what are some of the things that you should include in your SOP? The first and the biggest thing is you have to identify your use cases. So think about the types of missions that your department is going to use the drone for and identify when the drone should be used, when the drone shouldn't be used, and who's going to make that decision. Also in your SOP, and this is, sort of goes along with the use case, is who's going to make the decision about whether you should or should not fly that day. So the commander may say, hey, I would like you guys to put up the drone, but you have to give that authority to the pilot in command. It says so in the regulations and in the 107 certification. The pilot in command has the ultimate authority here. And so it's one of the things we stress quite a bit when we're out doing trainings is that, yes, I know you may be hiring the command staff, but I'm the one that's trained to use this drone, so I have to have the ability to say no. That said, you shouldn't just say no and walk away. You should be able to say, no, we can't do it because X, Y, Z, and here are some of the mitigations that we can use to make it safer to operate. So again, come up with your use cases. Who's going to make the call to use the drone? Who's going to make the call whether or not the drone can actually be used in that particular situation? And then who is actually going to fly the aircraft? The other thing you might want to think about is what are the qualifications that your pilots and your visual observers have to have? So what kind of training do they need to go through? The certificate of authorization actually delegates the self-certification to the department. So you need to think about what those things look like for you. Have they gone through ground training, flight training? Have they done a certain amount of practice hours? And those are all things that you should spell out in your SOP. Another thing you want to talk about is privacy, particularly for a law enforcement agency. When are the situations that you're going to use it? Are you going to need a warrant? Are you going to need to be able to justify why you use the drone? And is that going to get you in trouble or get evidence thrown out down the line? So those are really important things you need to identify up front. The FAA doesn't really specify anything on that front, and so that's really a local decision and something you need to talk about with your city's district attorney. Next thing you want to talk about is data retention. So you're recording video, just like you would on a body cam or a dash cam or a helmet cam. You have to think about what you're going to do with that video. So are you going to record everything and store everything, and how long are you going to store it for? Are you going to record nothing and store nothing? Are you going to record things only that are of evidentiary value, and how do you maintain chain of custody? Those are all the types of things that you need to be thinking about around your data. And then the last thing that I would say to include in your SOPs is maintenance. So how often are you going to replace things? How often are you going to do routine maintenance, clean the drones, take them out, replace batteries, refresh batteries, and things like that? Who's going to be responsible for that is a really important part to include in there as well. And then also delegating a program manager. So under the certificate of authorization, you're required to send a monthly report to the FAA detailing all of your activities. So understanding how you're going to track all that information and who's going to be responsible for collecting it and sending it off to the FAA. Then the last thing I'll add in there is recurrent training. So what does it look like? You need to get, if you're operating under 107, you probably need to renew that certification every 2 years. If you're operating under a COA, what does your department decide is the right way to do that? So do they need to do training once a month for an hour? Do they need to do a new class every year or every 2 years? How do we go about recurrent or additional intermediate training and things like that? So that's just a little bit of a look at how to develop an SOP for your drone program. Of course, if you have more questions on how to do that, you can reach out to us anytime at skyfireconsulting.com. Thanks so much. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel or go to skyfireconsulting.com to sign up for our weekly PropellerHeads newsletter.